All right, back in front of my camera again. So, is Disney open to doing more hand-drawn animated movies? It seems like it. SlashFilm had an interview with a few people at Disney, and they seem pretty open to the idea. But let's discuss the article. Hey everybody, Blood Moon Bobby here, and I know this is a relatively older article. I remember seeing this get tossed around Twitter a while back, like I would say a few days ago or so. And even though it's an older article, it's still something I wanted to talk about. It totally makes sense, especially since I like to talk about animation and film here on this YouTube channel. And it's also, in particular, a topic that I honestly don't think I really get to discuss much here in regards to Disney's 2D animated films, at least in terms of if I think Disney should make more 2D animated films, which I definitely do, but I really want to discuss this article first. So what exactly happened is the website SlashFilm had this interview with a few people that are quite higher up at Disney. They had this interview with Walt Disney Animation Studios president Jennifer Lee, who's also co-directing Frozen 2. Also in the interview was senior vice president of Walt Disney Animation Production Peter Del Vejo. I watched I'm trying to learn how to pronounce his name. The I watched the video of when he won the Oscar for Frozen and they said his name, so if I butchered his name, I'm sorry about that. And Frozen 2 co-director Chris Buck was also in the interview, and the gist of it in terms of whether Disney is open to doing more 2D animated feature films, Del Vejo and Lee especially seem pretty open to it, but basically, Del Vejo said it's basically up to the filmmakers. So basically, what happened here, I'm going to be looking at my iPad quite a bit because there's quite a few notes here. Is basically Del Vejo said that Disney is one of the few studios in the world that can do both hand-drawn animated films as well as CG animated films. You know that as of recently, basically many of Disney's animated feature films have been CG animated movies. Movies like Frozen, Wreck-It Ralph, Zootopia, and Moana. And he basically said it's up to the filmmakers and how they want to tell the story. In the interview, I will give them credit in that they also try to basically say that there's also been a lot of hand-drawn influence in their CG films. Like Del Vejo said that hand-drawn movies are part of the Disney legacy, of course, and Chris Buck, who is the Frozen 2 co-director, said that the hand-drawn animators have helped a lot, have helped the CG animators quite a bit. So it does sound like to some degree that the Disney higher-ups are open to doing more hand-drawn animated movies, and I do really want to see Disney do a thing where they make some of their movies CG movies and some other movies hand-drawn. I know there's some movies like, the Wreck-It Ralph movies, for instance. I understand that has to be done through CG, especially since they're video game characters. And I do like many of Disney's CG animated movies, movies like Moana, Frozen, and Wreck-It Ralph especially. I really like those films. But at the same time, like a lot of people in the animation fandom, especially, I do want to see them, go back to like the glory days. Kind of like, well, I know that Disney, they've been making the hand drawn movies for a really long time, basically for a good part of the 20th century. But at the same time, I do really miss seeing them make hand drawn animated films. I grew up watching a lot of the classic movies like Snow White, Cinderella. I think I've actually seen all the Disney Renaissance movies. I've seen Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King. The 2D animated Lion King, I might add, the one that came out in 1994, used to be my favorite movie as a kid. And Interestingly enough, some of my favorite moments in Disney hand-drawn animation, and I'm not saying that I purely prefer the CG movies, but some of my favorite moments were when they actually blended it to their 2D style with CG techniques. We saw that quite a bit in movies like Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, with the wildebeest scene. But I think the movie that used it to its advantage the most and did the best was A Hunchback of Notre Dame, especially with those really crazy sweeping camera shots, like when Quasimodo is sliding down the water fountain in on Notre Dame, or when he's rescuing Esmeralda. I mean, those scenes were downright epic. I really like when they were able to do that, and I would really like to see Disney do a thing where if they could make 2D animated movies on top of their CG ones. I am a little concerned, like when Del Vejo said that, hey, we're up for it. It's just a matter of, the storytellers coming to us and it's up to them. It does have me a little concerned that, the higher ups at Disney, he might be concerned with whether these 2D animated movies, if they made more, if they're going to be successful or not, especially since, and I think we can all agree basically, and I think it's fair to say, it's fair to speculate that one of the reasons why Disney doesn't really do 2D animated feature films anymore is because a lot of the ones they made in the 2000s didn't really do that well, critically or financially, which is interesting. I'm talking about movies like Atlantis the Lost Empire, Brother Bear, and Home on the Range. And to be fair, not all the hand-drawn movies they made in the 2000s were bad movies. I like Lilo and Stitch, and even some of the ones that weren't received the best at the time started to grow cult followings, like Atlantis the Lost Empire, for instance. But movies like Home on the Range, I watched it once and I could barely remember that movie. I saw Brother Bear as a kid, didn't really like that movie all that much. So what I think happened is, and I'm not saying, and it's not that 2D animation style got old and things like that. What I think happened is that it's left such a bad taste in people's mouths that even when they made the critically acclaimed movies, or at least 2D movies that did get good reviews, like Princess and the Frog and Winnie the Pooh, those two movies, I kind of have this sneaky suspicion that maybe some people got so turned off from Disney's past efforts in the 2000s. They were like, I don't really want to see them, and that's why Disney had to go over to making CG movies like the ones I mentioned before, like Frozen and Moana and Zootopia, which I still like much of those movies. Zootopia, not so much, admittedly. But especially with how a lot of Disney's CG movies have been coming out nowadays, and what I feel what makes them good is not just the CG style, but what also makes them really good is that they have some really good storytelling and some really amazing characters in a lot of these recent CG films. So what I'm thinking is, if somebody could come along and do a thing where they're like, okay, I really want to bring back Disney's 2D animation style, and I have a story that's Frozen or Wreck-It Ralph or Moana caliber, as long if the story and characters are just as good, but I want to tell that story through, Disney's hand-drawn animation, then I could see them, making a 2D hand-drawn movie that absolutely works. And to be fair, there is still, some hope in other ways in that Disney could make more 2D animated feature films. Like, for instance, Mary Poppins Returns. I know some of the animation in that film was done through hand-drawn animation, and also if you do research on some of Disney's recent short films like Inner Workings and Feast, those two short movies are really good, by the way. If you go to D23 websites, they said that those movies were made with a mix of hand-drawn and CG styles. So I'm thinking that, Disney, to some extent, let's say, has kind of dabbled in hand-drawn, even if the majority of, especially their feature films, have been coming out in 3D CGI. So I definitely think it's possible, and I definitely will be up for it. I mean, I'm definitely still looking forward to Disney's CG movies like Frozen 2 and Raya the Last Dragon, that movie that I talked about in my D23 video. But it would also be really nice if if they did start making 2D animated films along the way. It's just that I hope that Disney does give, somebody that chance. I think when I kind of have a feeling that when they made Mary Poppins Returns, they were kind of testing the waters to see if, the audience, would be interested in seeing 2D animated films again. Even though, yes, Mary Poppins Returns, it's a live action movie. It did have, some 2D characters, 2D hand-drawn characters in it. So I honestly think that if they could bring back their 2D style with a story that's on par with something like Moana, like Frozen, or Wreck-It Ralph, then I think people would be more apt for giving it a chance. I know a lot of people hate this person nowadays, and I have my issues with him. But I remember, or a while back, Doug Walker was talking about both Tangled and Princess and the Frog, and he had this theory that maybe another part of it is because a lot of people have this bias where, oh, if it's really CGI, that means it's going to be great for adults too, whereas if it's hand drawn, it's just like, that's just kid stuff and that sort of thing. And yeah, I could see that being part of it too as well, although I'm definitely not in that crowd myself. I still like, many of Disney's 2D movies just as much as I did when I was a kid, some, if not more. So the run of it all basically is that I'm definitely down for Disney to do some more 2D animated movies in the future. I am glad that it seems like they're at least open to the idea of doing some more work, but I just think that Disney just needs to give that person whoever wants to come along and make another 2D animated movie. I think it's just a matter of they really need to give whoever that person may be a chance, especially if the story and characters are good and if they're at least on par with something that's been in their CG movies as of late, because Disney has made some pretty good CG movies at the same time. So I want to hear your thoughts down below. Would you be interested in seeing Disney come out with more 2D animated films in the future, 2D hand-drawn films to be more specific? Leave all those thoughts down below. Until next time, this has been Blood Moon Bobby, and thank you all for watching. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this Blood Moon Bobby video. Like and share the video if you enjoyed it, and feel free to leave a comment. Subscribe to my channel, and ring the bell to get notified when I release my latest videos. Follow me at Blood Moon Bobby on your favorite social media platforms to take part in polls, see my tech tips, and to hear about my video plans. Thanks for watching.